Ladies and gentlemen, back to the channel. Today we've got another UFC preview and predictions. The main event this weekend is Kevin Holland taking on Derek Brunson, a key matchup at 185 pounds. It's a pretty good 13 fight card we got here this upcoming Saturday night. And folks, if you have not yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below for more UFC on the channel. It's a really good card, of course. Gregor Gillespie's back for the first time in over a year, and he's taking on a really good fighter over there in Brad Riddell, and also Tai Tuivasa is fighting Don'Tale Mayes. Again, a pretty solid card, and we're going to start off here with Anthony Birchak taking on Johnny Eduardo. Let's start here first with Anthony Birchak. On the screen right now, I should have, or in a second here, it should have his UFC record. I have it as 0-1 if got to put on his first run in the UFC. So we'll start with Anthony Birchak, of course. So his second run in the UFC started with a loss to Gustavo Lopez. That was on Santos and Teixeira over in November of last year. He lost that fight by rear naked choke. It's a short notice fight. Took that fight in about 5 days notice, if I'm not mistaken. And then the first run in the UFC for Birchak started in 2014. Lost his first fight by heel hook over in Phoenix, Arizona on the Dos Santos Miocic card on Fox. Then he went and beat Joe Soto, KO'd him, lost to Thomas Almeida, had a couple more fights, got dropped at the promotion, and then went to Rizin. Didn't actually win in Rizin. He went 0-3 over there, picked up a win in Combate, then won in LFA, and then got the shot back in the UFC, obviously, losing to Gustavo Lopez. Birchak, really good ground fighter. The stand-up game is good as well, can't finish fights from the feet, but the ground game is probably his strong suit. We have seen him get finished, though, on the ground in the past, make that 3 times for Birchak, of course, most recently in the Gustavo Lopez fight. In that fight, Birchak, I thought he was just going to take down Gustavo Lopez, and by the way, Gustavo Lopez fighting later on this card against Adrian Yanez, but yeah, going into that fight, I thought Birchak just going to be able to work the takedowns in that one, because you got to remember, Gustavo Lopez coming off a loss to Merab Dvalishvili, where it just wasn't a competitive fight, just complete total domination by Merab Dvalishvili. But I thought Birchak was going to try to do more of the same. Didn't work out for him, ended up getting subbed, and yeah, unfortunately, I mean, he's coming into this fight with the record of 15-7, of course, 0-1 in the latest run in the UFC. The first run in the UFC for Birchak ended up, I believe, yeah, he was 2-2 in that first run in the promotion. Let's talk about his opponent, though, and the veteran, Johnny Eduardo. And he has been in the UFC for forever. First fight, August 27th, 2011 on UFC 134. Anderson the Spider Silva defending the middleweight championship over against Yushin Okami. Yeah, of course, he won that fight, but on that card, Johnny Eduardo did lose to Rafael Assunção, comes back, picks up a couple wins, most notably over Eddie Wineland. But yeah, this is how the UFC run goes for Eduardo. So 2011 win, or lost to Assunção, 2012 win, 2014 win over Eddie Wineland, then a year later, December 15, loses to the current champion Aljamain Sterling, then picks up a win in 2016, loses to Matthew Lopez in 2017, and then loses most recently to Nathaniel Wood in 2018 over New York on the Rivera Marlon Moraes card. And yeah, he has not fought since. Didn't fight in 2019, did not fight in 2020. He's finally back here in 2021. Johnny Eduardo, something to note, he is 42 years old. Very good ground game for Johnny Eduardo. Very good stand-up game as well, but he has been submitted, yeah, 9 times in his career. You're looking at Nathaniel Wood, Aljamain Sterling. I mean, but those guys, again, Nathaniel Wood, Aljamain Sterling on different levels, but hey, he has fought the current champion now. And say what you want about Aljamain Sterling, but he is the champion, and he's a very damn good fighter. And yeah, Eduardo has fought the best of the best. And yeah, he did fight Takanori Gomi over in 1999. The man made his pro debut November 1st in 1996. So that just says a lot about Johnny Eduardo. He's a veteran of the sport. 40 total pro fights, current record of 28-12. But it's like this version of Johnny Eduardo that has not been fighting. He has not fought since June of 2018, the summer of 2018. And you got a guy like Anthony Birchak who is fighting very often. Well, I mean, more than Johnny Eduardo, definitely, and just fought in November of last year. So that being said, I'm going to take the more active fighter. I'm going to take the guy who's younger and has looked better most recently, Anthony Birchak. Yeah, I know, he didn't look good in the Gustavo Lopez fight, but if you go back to the fights, LFA, Combate, and yeah, he did not look great in Rizin, but it's just more recently, man, Anthony Birchak has looked good. He's fought 3 times since Johnny Eduardo's last fight. And I don't know, again, it's a very even fight on paper. Johnny Eduardo's got a pretty good stand-up game. I mean, he knocked out Eddie Wineland back in 2014 when knocking out Eddie Wineland was a tough thing to do. But I feel like if Anthony Birchak is one on the ground, and I know it's a tough game playing against Johnny Eduardo on the ground, but like we've seen Eduardo get submitted multiple times in the past, I think Birchak going to be able to use some of his wrestling, and if he keeps this fight on his feet, he'll probably win it there too. So I'm going to go with an Anthony Birchak decision win to start off this card. Now at flyweight, we have got JP Buys taking on Bruno Silva. We'll start here with Bruno Silva. So, currently 0-3 in the UFC. That is concerning. I know the first fight in the UFC was against Khalid Taha. He did lose the fight, then it got overturned I do believe because Thomas waited initially, but then he also tested positive for a PED, or I think it was a PED. He tested positive for something, all right? So that fight got overturned. The next fight for Silva fought David Dvorak, lost that one, and most recently over in Abu Dhabi, lost to Tagir Ulanbekov by unanimous decision as well. So it's really make or break at this point for Bruno Silva in the UFC. Most notably, I mean, people are gonna bring this up when they talk about Bruno Silva. Did fight Casey Kenny to a draw at LFA 11 over in May of 2017. Bruno Silva's run in the UFC, though, let's be honest with ourselves, has not been great. I know he's fought really good competition, especially in David Dvorak, a guy I think very highly of, and Dvorak's going to be in the top 5 very soon, and a good fighter in Tagir Ulanbekov. And yeah, I mean, that's all I can really say. He got outclassed in the Dvorak fight and the Tagir Ulanbekov fight. The one against Dvorak was in Brazil. You got 29-28 across the board. Of course, you got Silva winning 1 round in that fight, Dvorak winning 2, and then his fight against Ulanbekov, you got 30-27s across the board, except for one judge who had a 29-28 for Bruno Silva. And yeah, all around, I mean, Silva's got a pretty solid stand-up game, pretty good ground game as well. It's a tough fight, though, against JP Buys, because JP Buys good everywhere as well, right? I mean, especially the ground game, but yeah, I don't know. It's a tough fight for Bruno Silva. Let's talk about his opponent in the Contender Series alum, JP Buys. And JP Buys looked good in his last fight over in 2020. It was a win against Jacob Silva. Won that one by guillotine. It's a weird stoppage in that fight. There's about 6 seconds left in the round. JP Buys has got the guillotine choke, and it looks like Jacob Silva's out, and the referee pulls him off. I believe the referee was Mark Smith. I could be mistaken. No, it was Mark Goddard. Excuse me. But JP Buys gets the guillotine. It looks like Silva's out. Goddard stops the fight, and Silva pops right back up to his feet. So JP Buys ended up getting the contract. Jacob Silva was, Dana White said he was going to be back in the Contender Series, I believe, this summer. So who knows about that? But yeah, I don't know what Goddard was thinking there. It looked like he was out, kind of. But yeah, I don't think, actually, Jacob Silva probably won't get another shot in the Contender Series because he just did lose over at Fury last week. So that's unfortunate for him. But back to JP Buys, coming off that big win over Jacob Silva. And that was the second run in the Contender Series. The first one, he lost by TKO to Joby Sanchez in 2017. JP Buys, though, really good ground game, and that's going to be a strong suit in this fight. He's probably going to want to take this one down against Bruno Silva because I think that's probably where he will have the biggest advantage. Before the fight in the Contender Series, fought over in LFA, tested the waters out over there at bantamweight, and then most recently, of course, the Contender Series fight was at flyweight. He was a minus 500 favorite in that fight as well, and I think JP Buys would probably be able to get the win in this one. We've seen Bruno Silva he hasn't been great in the UFC, and I know, again, the levels of competition have been very good, but JP Buys, I think he's going to be able to use his grappling to his advantage in this one, probably be able to take down Bruno Silva, probably keep him there. I'm going to go probably, I mean, yeah, it's a tough one to call. JP Buys has never seen the end of a fight. All of his fights have been stopped. I'll say another submission win for JP Buys in this one. I think he'll probably get the job done. I'll go second round submission for Buys. Next up, we've got Julia Stoliarenko taking on Julia Avila. We're going to start here with Stoliarenko. Her last fight was a fight against Yana Kunitskaya that happened. Yeah, interesting fight. It was on Lewis and Olenek over in August of last year, and it was a pretty dominant fight for Yana Kunitskaya. I mean, you got a 30-26 in there with 2 30-27s. It's pretty obvious. I mean, Stoliarenko, let's just get straight to it. She's a good ground fighter. She's a very good grappler, and she basically has to get a submission, or not a submission. She basically has to get a takedown or get the fight at the ground to win a fight, and that's just, it shows in her record. I mean, you got 0 wins by knockout or by TKO. Yeah, 8 wins by submission, 1 win by decision, and that was in her fight to win the Invicta Bantamweight Championship over in March of 2020. So there's that. Her first run in the UFC, she started on the, or not like Contender Series, sorry, on the Ultimate Fighter. She lost in the final by split decision. They had her at featherweight because they brought in a bunch of bantamweights to go fight featherweight. Season made 0 sense. And she got cut by the UFC because she went back to bantamweight, picked up a lot of wins, came back, fought Yana Kunitskaya. But like, it's very obvious where this fight is going. If Stoliarenko cannot land a takedown in this fight or get this fight to the ground, she's going to lose to Julia Avila on the feet. That's how simple, and it's just that simple. It really is. You got an over record for Stoliarenko of 9 wins, 4 losses, and 2 draws. The UFC record, of course, is 0-2. The first loss coming in 2018. And then, of course, the latest in August of 2020. Let's talk about her opponent, though, in Julia Avila. And Julia Avila's last fight was a fight against Sijara Eubanks. That was on Waterson Hill over in September. She did lose that fight by unanimous decision. Eubanks scored 29-27s across the board in that fight. And then before that for Julia Avila, she did beat Gina Mazzani by TKO over on Ian Calvillo in June of 2020. And then before that, her debut fight in the UFC was a win over Pannie Kianzad on UFC 239. That would be Thiago Santos taking on John Jones in the main event. Also, Julia Avila does own a win over Nico Montano, the former UFC women's flyweight champion, over in 2017 January. That was actually supposed to be the fight. It was supposed to be Avila and I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be Avila and Montano, if I'm not mistaken. I do believe that was supposed to be the rematch. But yeah, of course, Montano had to pull out. That was back though. That was a couple months ago. That was in November of last year. So that fight never happened. Avila now getting Stoliarenko. I believe Nico Montano, is she suspended again? I don't know what's happening with Nico Montano. I'm gonna keep it real with you. The former, of course, UFC women's flyweight champion. But Avila, current record of 8-2. It's pretty simple how Julia Avila wins this fight. If you keep the fight standing, just use the same game plan Yana Kunitskaya did. Keep the fight standing, you're gonna win the fight. I mean, it's that simple. Avoid the clinch, just keep the fight standing. Even if this fight does go to the ground, it's not like Julia Stoliarenko, no matter what, is going to win this fight. Julia Avila does have a pretty solid ground game as well, so I really just don't see a path to victory for Julia Stoliarenko on this one. Avila is a very big favorite in this fight. You got about -350 right now. I'm sure it's going to change. The graphic on the screen might be a little bit different, but it's about that. Avila is a pretty heavy favorite in this one, and I do expect her to get the job done. We're going to go with the Julia Avila. I'm going to go with the unanimous decision. I think she's just going to be able to keep the fight on the feet. Just outpoint her. That simple. Next up, we have got Montel Jackson taking on Jesse Strader. Let's start first with Jesse Strader. So currently 5-1, coming off 2 wins over there in Combate. Most recently a win over Isaiah Gonzalez, and before that he beat a 1-3 Michael Jackson. Jesse Strader got the win in that fight, and before that he lost to Marcelo Rojo. Of course, Marcelo Rojo just fought in the UFC. Crazy fight, honestly, against Charles Air Jordan. We got that fight right with Charles Air Jordan, and yeah, Strader, that's his only loss, and before that, a couple wins over in Combate as well. Making the UFC debut in this one, by far Jesse Strader is the biggest underdog on this card. He got about a +500 underdog for Jesse Strader in this one. Very good stand-up fighter. He's a knockout artist. It's that simple. But Montel Jackson's stand-up game is very damn good as well. So Strader's gonna have to outbox Montel Jackson this one, and yeah, it's pretty tough to do. Your first fight in the UFC, very short notice, by the way, for Jesse Strader in this one. And Montel Jackson, you're talking about a guy who's like I wouldn't say top 15, but like a borderline top 15, top 20 guy in Montel Jackson. I feel pretty confident in saying so about Montel Jackson. It's just a very tough ask for Jesse Strader in this fight. Again, it's this simple. He's got to land one on Montel Jackson. He's got to be able to try to, I don't know, he's got to get a knockout quick in this one, because if this fight extends on to the later rounds, I think Montel Jackson's going to have this one in the bag. That being said, let's talk about Montel Jackson. And for Montel Jackson, his last fight in the UFC was a loss to Brett Johns. It was in Abu Dhabi. It was on a Figueiredo Benavidez 2 in the summer of last year, and 29-28 across the board in that fight for of course Brett Johns. So Jackson did win a round in that fight, but Brett Johns got the better of him in that one. And before that for Montel Jackson, it's a win over Felipe Colares, and before that a win over Andrei Sokolov by unanimous decision, and then before that a pretty big win over Brian Kelleher. Got Brian Kelleher down to the ground, got him with the Darce choke, and to this day it is Montel Jackson's only submission win in his career. That was on UFC 232, Jones Gustafsson #2. And then his first fight in the UFC, it's a fight against Ricky Simón, UFC 227, a very tough fight. He lost that one by unanimous decision, and before that got a win on the Contender Series to get into the UFC. Montel Jackson's stand-up game is very good. He's got a very good boxing. I wouldn't say his ground game is excellent, but he's got a good ground game as well. So that makes me believe. Jesse Strader, I don't want to sound this way, but he's got no chance in this fight. Now, could Jesse Strader go out there and land a bomb? Yes, and that's okay. I shouldn't say he doesn't have a chance. He has some chance, but other than that, Montel Jackson probably gonna have this one in the bag. If he just keeps his range in this fight, if he just keeps on the outside in this one, just touches up Jesse Strader, he's going to win this fight pretty easily, I feel like. I think the boxing is going to be too much for Strader. It's his first fight in the UFC. Short notice, you're taking on a guy, Montel Jackson, who has beat guys such as Brian Kelleher and Andrei Sokolov in the UFC. It feels like a mismatch. The odds reflect that. Vegas is not giving Jesse Strader a chance in this this one, but hey, if you want to throw $10 on Jesse Strader, you might as well, because the odds are just that bad for him. And Montel Jackson, what, minus 700 favorite in this one? Absolutely incredible. Yeah, Montel Jackson's going to win this fight. I say he gets a finish. I'm going to say TKO finish here for Montel Jackson. I'm going to go TKO in the second round. So a really damn good fight now. We have got Trevin Giles taking on Roman Dolidze. And let's start with Roman Dolidze, because I have been on the Roman Dolidze hype train for a very long time. Well, I mean, ever since he got to the UFC. I was big on this guy, coming off a couple wins over in various promotions in Ukraine. And yeah, I mean, I thought he was going to really go right through Hideyat Ibrahimov. Of course, he did that. Big knee in that fight. And the John Allen fight, yeah, this was on Hermansson and Vettori, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was. Over in December. Now, he fought all right in that fight. Got tired towards the end of that one. I don't know how it was a split decision. I thought Roman Dolidze won that one pretty convincingly, but didn't look great in that one. Not what you want to look like. I mean, okay, Roman Dolidze won the fight. I thought he won the fight pretty obviously, but I thought he was going to go straight through John Allen that one. He did not, but hey, he keeps his undefeated record intact. He is currently 8-0, and Roman Dolidze, okay, the wrestling I mean, okay, that's his background, wrestling background for Roman Dolidze, but he throws a lot of weird strikes in his fight. He always throws that spinning back fist. It's kind of like the Merab Dvalishvili thing. If, like, Dolidze landed one spinning back fist in one of his fights, and he keeps throwing it over and over again. But also, he's got a very good ground game as well. So, not just the wrestling is good, his submissions are great as well. He's got a really nice heel hook that he's gotten off 2 times in his professional career. His first 2 fights were both wins by heel hook. But he's also got a crap ton of power. I mean, that's pretty evident in the Hideyat Ibrahimov fight. That big knee to end the fight. And like, if you look at his record before coming into the UFC, all by finish. Only one fight that went to the 3rd round. So that's why the John Allen fight was interesting. He had to actually go the full 15 minutes, and he did end up getting the win in that fight. But you gotta look for the big power from Roman Dolidze. He can end a fight with one punch. But this is something to take note of, though. Roman Dolidze is fighting at 185 now, and his first 2 fights in the UFC were both at light heavyweight. He's been at light heavyweight for a very long time. I don't believe he's ever fought at middleweight in his professional career. Yeah, his first fight was at heavyweight, and then he went down to light heavyweight, and ever since then he has been at light heavyweight. So it's an interesting narrative in this fight. Dolidze well, for the first time going down to 185. How will that affect his speed? How will it affect his cardio in this one? That's something to take note of. But if he comes into 185 with the same skill set that he had at 205, the power is going to be a lot for some of these guys down here at 185, and that's going to be a tough ask for Trevin Giles to go up there and stand with Dolidze, and also because Dolidze's ground game is so good as well. So that's Roman Dolidze. Let's talk about his opponent, in Trevin Giles. And Trevin Giles is coming off a 2-fight winning streak that started at the James Krause win over on UFC 247. I've talked about the fight multiple times. He was not supposed to fight James Krause. Krause steps in what, 12 hours notice, give or take, and then Trevin Giles wins that fight by split decision. I thought James Krause won the fight, not gonna lie, but they gave the decision to Giles. And his most recent win was a win over Bevon Lewis by TKO in the 3rd round over in Vegas on the Thiago Santos Glover Teixeira card. Got that one done, of course, by TKO. And then his 2 previous fights were 2 losses to 2 veterans. In Zach Cummings got submitted in that one, and against Gerald Mearshart as well got submitted. Both those fights ended by guillotine choke, and then Giles started off his UFC career with 2 wins as well. He has fought at light heavyweight in the past, but of course is going to be meeting Dolidze down at 185 for this one. Current record for Trevin Giles of 13 wins and 2 losses. Very good fighter on the feet. Very good stand-up game for Trevin Giles. He's finished a lot of fights on the feet. Big example, the Bevon Lewis fight. Also can get submission wins as well, but we haven't really seen it as much in the UFC because the 2 times that we saw him on the ground, the most, Zach Cummings fight got subbed, Gerald Mearshart fight got subbed, but Gerald Mearshart, very good submission artist, and Zach Cummings, a very good guy on the ground as well. You're taking on 2 of the better fighters, 2 better veteran fighters who fight at 185. So there's that. Dolidze, is he on the level of a Gerald Mearshart and a Zach Cummings with his ground game? That's yet to be said, and you don't know because Dolidze throws a lot of weird submissions. Of course, the heel hook in there as well. It's a tough fight to call. I mean, this is one of the tougher fights to call on this entire card. Again, I've been high on Roman Dolidze for a while, but Trevin Giles is a very good opponent for him. You're going to see how good Roman Dolidze is in this fight. You're going to see, all right, can Dolidze really hang with the top? I mean, I'll say Trevin Giles is like a top 20 guy. Okay, maybe 25. I'll say he's a top 25 guy at middleweight. And you're going to see, is Dolidze a top 25 middleweight? I don't know, because Dolidze's power is so, it just depends. What Dolidze will we get at 185? Because his power at 205 was insane. Will it be even more at 185? You just don't know. And how will it affect his cardio? That being said, I'm still going with Roman Dolidze. Now, I really want Roman Dolidze to use his wrestling in this fight. We've seen Trevin Giles get submitted in the past, and again, I know that's Zach Cummings and Gerald Meerschaert, but I think that's Dolidze's easiest path to a victory in this one. If he just tries to strike with Trevon Giles, I mean, he might lose this one. I'm gonna keep it real with you. Trevon Giles might go in there and just piece up Roman Dolidze on the feet, because Dolidze will be looking for that one knockout punch to end the fight. Because that's really all Roman Dolidze has. He's not a very technical striker. He's just going to go in there. He's going to throw a lot of weird strikes, i.e. the spinning back fist. Throws that a lot in his fights. He's going to throw a big overhand right. If he doesn't connect, there's that. And that's what happened in the John Allen fight, some points of that fight. I think Dolidze, if he uses wrestling, he's going to come in there and he's going to really outwork Trevin Giles. I think that's what we're going to get here. I think Dolidze, again, going to look for submissions. I'm thinking he'll probably get a submission and win this one. I think probably not first round, but I'm gonna go second round submission for Roman Dolidze, trying to get back on track here, even though he did win his last fight against John Allen. Again, very tough fight against Trevin Giles, but we're going with the Dolidze second round sub. So next up, we have got Leonardo Santos taking on Grant Dawson. Leonardo Santos finally back here in the octagon. His last win was a win on UFC 251. It was a unanimous decision win over Roman Bogatinov. Got the job done there. But yeah, Leonardo Santos, undefeated currently in the UFC. He's been fighting in the UFC since 2013. You might be asking yourself, okay, why isn't this guy at least in the top 10? Why has he not been a champion? Well, he's the former UFC Ultimate Fighter Brazil champion. I guess you can call it a champion. Chael Sonnen calls it a champion if you win the Ultimate Fighter, but comes out after the Ultimate Fighter, wins 7 fights in a row. Yeah, I mean, well, he does have a draw in there as well, but I mean, the big wins, obviously, you got Anthony Rocco Martin there, but the big one that's going to stick out will be the Kevin Lee one. Yes, he beat Kevin Lee, UFC 194, over there in Las Vegas, Nevada. Conor McGregor, Jose Aldo, and Leonardo Santos does have a win over Kevin Lee. Well, since then, for Kevin Lee, he went on to challenge for a world championship, and Leonardo Santos, after that, well, he won a fight 2016, one other fight in 2019, one other fight in 2020. Right? I mean, Leonardo Santos has taken a lot of time off with his fights. I mean, you go from that Kevin Lee win in 2015 to a win over Stevie Ray in 2019, and then a win over Roman Bogatinov in 2020. It's just been the inactivity that's been keeping Leonardo Santos out of the top of the division, if we're being honest, right? Unfortunately for Leonardo Santos, he's now 41 years old, and being 41 years old at 155 pounds is very tough because, yeah, the weight cut doesn't get any easier as you get older, and it's just tougher to hang with some of these young guys at the weight class. And Grant Dawson, the fighter that Leonardo Santos is obviously fighting this Saturday night, kind of reminds me of a younger Leonardo Santos. He really is. I mean, Grant Dawson, 27 years old. We're going to talk about him more in a second here, but a very good ground fighter. Not horrible on the feet either, but a very good submission specialist in Grant Dawson. And for Leonardo Santos, I mean, this fight will most likely end up on the ground this entire fight. Yes, you could see a case where two grapplers cause a striking fight. If it's a striking fight, it's a 50-50 fight. I just don't know how that one's going to end. But on the ground, for being honest, it's probably a 50-50 fight as well. I mean, these two guys are very good on the ground. They're very all right on the feet. I mean, that's the best I can put it. Leonardo Santos coming in this fight with a record of 18-3-1, and he's been great in the UFC, man. He made his debut on Fuel TV. Remember Fuel TV? That would be Fabricio Verdum versus Big Nog, where Verdum got the job done by armbar. That was the main event of that card, and then of course, on that same card was the finale for the Ultimate Fighter. Leonardo Santos was on that one as well. So that's Santos. We'll talk about his opponent here in Grant Dawson. And yeah, Grant Dawson's been great in the UFC. If you want to look at his last fight, it's a win over Nadir Rahmani by unanimous decision over in Abu Dhabi. Figueiredo Benavidez number 2. And in that fight, for our guy here in Grant Dawson, you got 30-26, 30-27, 29-27. So you got a 10-8 in there, and then one judge gave one round to Nadir Rahmani. But it was pretty obvious. Yeah, Grant Dawson won that fight. First couple fights in the UFC. We'll start with his debut. Julian Erosa win March 9th, 2019. Luis Dos Santos over in Wichita, Kansas. Always got to get my Julian Dos Santos accent in there. But it's a big win over a guy in Julian Erosa, who now Julian Erosa looking like a very good fighter, coming off back-to-back wins over Sean Woodson and in Nate Landwehr, big flying knee finish. So looking back at it now, very good win for Grant Dawson. Wins that fight by unanimous decision. You got 30-26, 30-27, 29-27. So add on another 10-8 to the record books for Grant Dawson. And after that, you get to win for Michael Trezino by rear naked choke over in Rochester, May of 2019. And after that, beats Derek Minner by rear naked choke over on Benavides Figueiredo #1 in February of 2020, Norfolk, Virginia. Only one loss in the career so far for Grant Dawson. Currently holds a record of 16-1. That one loss is a TKO loss in the first round, 30 seconds in, on a Kansas City Fighting Alliance card in Independence, Missouri, against Hugh Pulley. Unfortunate, but I mean, since then, Grant Dawson has been spectacular fighting, and yeah, he does have some TKO finishes, but the main objective, or the main strong suit for Grant Dawson is the ground game. Tremendous submissions, a lot of rear naked chokes in there, and that's it. That is his go-to submission. And can he submit Leonardo Santos? I don't know, because Leonardo Santos has never been submitted. Grant Dawson has never been submitted. Dawson's been finished once on the feet. Same with Leonardo Santos, only been finished once on the feet. That was over in 2006, and Dawson's one loss by KO was in 2016. It's a very good fight, man. And it's basically, will the veteran in Leonardo Santos refuse to pass on the torch to Grant Dawson? Because I honestly feel like Grant Dawson is just a younger version of Leonardo Santos. This fight is at 155. We've seen Grant Dawson at 145 in the past, and then at 155 as well. Finally going to settle at 155 for this fight against Leonardo Santos. I cannot stress to you how good of a fight this is going to be. I want to see this one on the ground because the transitions in this fight are going to be insane on the ground. Let the best man win, man. It is such a good fight. Let's let this one play out on the ground. I don't know who's going to win this one. Really don't. I think Grant Dawson's probably going to get the job done. I'm going to go with the younger guy. I mean, hell, what is he, 14 years younger than Leonardo Santos now? And I feel like everything Leonardo Santos does very well, Grant Dawson does as well. Now, I don't think either guy is going to get a submission win in this one. I just don't think it's going to happen. Both these guys are that good on the ground to the point where they're not going to get subbed. So I'm going to say Grant Dawson's going to win this one by decision. I think you're going to see a very fun fight in this one. I don't expect to finish in this one. If you are going to go one, I would say it would probably be a TKO. I doubt it though, and I'm going to go with Grant Dawson to remain undefeated in the UFC, move up to a record of 5-0 in the Ultimate Proving Ground. I believe that's a John Anik line. I think I got it right. Yeah, I think Grant Dawson will be able to get the job done, but I'm very pumped up for this fight. And next up, we've got Marion Reneau and Macy Chiasson. I already talked about that fight earlier, so let's just play that right now. Well, we have got a fight here between Macy Chiasson, the former winner of the Ultimate Fighter at featherweight, taking on Marion Reneau. Let's start here with Macy Chiasson. So her last fight, she beat Shanna Young by unanimous decision over in February 2020. Oh, it was so nice when we had crowds. Well, I guess we do have crowds again, but oh wait, they're going back to Vegas. You just had crowds in Fight Island, and you're going back to Las Vegas in the Apex with the small octagon. I don't understand it, man. I really don't. By the way, when's the Ultimate Fighter happening? Are they starting to film that show? Are we getting Masvidal and Colby, the Ultimate Fighter? If it's not them, I don't know. Like, they're going to make us sit there, and they're going to make us watch an Ultimate Fighter season of Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards. I don't know, it's just random, but that would be boring as hell, I'm not going to lie. Please give me, I don't care who's Colby fighting, who Colby is fighting, put Colby on the damn Ultimate Fighter as a coach. That'd be hilarious. It'd probably be the best ratings they ever pulls. Actually, no, Conor was on the Ultimate Fighter against Uriah Faber. That was a fun season as well. But yeah, back to Macy Chiasson, right? So, another Ultimate Fighter alum. She won the Ultimate Fighter season, a heavy hitters season. I don't believe that did too great ratings, but she beats Penny Kianzad by rear naked choke to win the show. She beats Gina Mazzani her next fight, beats Sarah Morris her next fight, loses to Lena Landsberg, and then beats Shanna Young on Anderson Vukovic too. Yeah, Macy Chiasson, pretty good all-around fighter. I mean, she's got really good striking. The Penny Kianzad fight, she kind of just exploited Kianzad's. She's basically, Kianzad's just not very good on the ground, honestly. I mean, she beat Sijara Eubanks, but still, Chiasson just got her to the ground, finished her on the ground. But the striking is where Macy Chiasson is very good, and that's probably where she's gonna have the best shot at winning this one against Marion Reneau. And I know Reneau's striking is all right as well. Her wrestling's pretty good. And yeah, let's talk about Marion Reneau. So I'm going to get this out of the way. Marion Reneau is 43 years old. Yeah, she's 43. One of the oldest fighters in the UFC. Yeah, she's on 3-fight skid too, so she needs this one to stay in the UFC. I mean, I don't know, maybe she'll get another fight. Who knows? But she loses to Raquel Pennington her last fight. Yana Kunitskaya the fight before that. Kat Zingano the fight before that. Given all three of those fighters are former title challengers, so I mean, there's that, right? Hey, I'm just gonna throw this out randomly. Juliana Pena. just want to put this out there. She wins her last fight. The reason I bring this up, on my TV, I have UFC, the pay-per-view of Gustafsson and Cormier running in the background. I'm seeing Jessica Eye and Juliana Pena playing in the background, but Juliana Pena is calling out Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes needs to stop ducking Juliana Pena. You heard me right. Stop ducking Juliana Pena. I'm joking. Hey, Juliana Pena versus Aspen Ladd, that'd be fun, right? But on a more realistic note, Mary Renault's last 3 fights, she did fight 3 title challengers, and given title challengers, Kat Zingano lost in 3 seconds to Ronda Rousey, Yana Kunitskaya lost in 3 minutes to Cyborg, and Nicole Pennington took a 5-round beating in Brazil to Amanda Nunes. So I mean, there's 3 good fighters, man. She also she beat Sarah McMahon, another former title challenger. She just lost to Juliana Pena, but yeah, Ronda Rousey beat Sarah McMahon in 3 minutes again. And before that, went over, we'll go to this fight. She lost to Betchko, or she had a draw against Betchko, another former title challenger. We'll go 3 fights before that. Lost to Holly Holm, a former champion. Before that, beat Jessica Andrade. We're getting 2015 now, but she did beat Jessica Andrade back when Andrade should fight at 135. And hey, she's going to 125. Give me the Jessica Andrade fight against Valentina Shevchenko, or Andrade already beat Kim Kachagian, but you know what I mean. So this fight's interesting. Renault and Macy Chiasson, it's the old guard versus the new guard. It's that simple, really. Mary Renault, her striking's pretty good, her wrestling's pretty good as well. Macy Chiasson, you can say the same exact thing about. Yeah, I'm just going with the younger fighter in this one. Yeah, I think Macy Chiasson's just a little bit better than Mary Renault at their points in their careers right now. It's that simple. I think Macy Chiasson, if the fight goes to the ground, I think she'll be able to win that one. Saves the fate, she'll win. So I'm going with the Macy Chiasson. I'll say unanimous decision win this one. I don't get necessarily why this one's higher on the card than Alexandre Pantoja, Manel Cape, but it is. Yeah, we're going Macy Chiasson to win. Next up, we've got Montserrat Ruiz taking on Cheyenne Buys. Let's talk about Montserrat Ruiz first. Coming off a win in Invicta by a it was a key lock from a scarf hold over in the summer. Got the job done there, and before that, fought in 2018, lost to Danielle Taylor by unanimous decision. That's her only loss so far in her professional career. Yeah, she went 1-1 in Invicta. This is a late notice fight against Cheyenne Buys. Buys was supposed to be taking on Kay Hansen on this card. That was going to be a really good fight between Hansen and Buys, 2 young up and comers. But now we get Ruiz and Buys, and Ruiz again, coming off that win in Invicta. The Danielle Taylor fight just didn't look that great in that fight. Got dominated. I wouldn't say dominated, but just lost that fight in December of 18. And for Ruiz in this one, against a fighter like Cheyenne Buys, she's probably going to want to take this one down, but Cheyenne Buys is just so well balanced everywhere. Again, Buys is not going to be the type of fighter that's going to get you out of there early in a fight, but Ruiz in this one, I would say it's probably going to have to be the ground game. She's probably going to have to go in here, try to fish for a takedown, try to get Cheyenne Buys to the ground, probably trying to finish her here with a submission. It's going to be that's a very tough ask though, because Cheyenne Buys, very good fighter in her own right. Ruiz coming to this fight with the record of 9-1, of course, making her UFC debut. Let's talk about her opponent though, in Cheyenne Buys. And now Cheyenne Buys, most known for her striking, but her ground game is not horrible as well. But I think if you got to give an advantage to someone on the ground, you probably have to give it to Ruiz. So for Cheyenne Buys in this fight, she's got to keep the fight on the feet. And she's a very good striker. Now, she does not have a finish on the feet since her very first fight professionally over on LFA in 2018, but her stand-up game is very good, and that was showcased in her fight on the Contender Series in August. It's a very good performance for her against Hillary Rose. Just dominated the fight. There's a lot of good body shots to Cheyenne Buys, a lot of good combinations. She'll finish them off with a kick, and she looked very good in that fight, and she's been looking really good. Of course, the couple LFA fights that she did have looked good there. She did lose her only Invicta fight over in 2018, but that was again her second pro fight, so it has been a while. Also, something to note, Cheyenne Buys has fought some very good opponents over in her amateur career. She fought Jillian Robertson in 2015, lost that fight by unanimous decision, and also lost to Vanessa Demopoulos there as well. Cheyenne Buys coming into this fight with a record of 5-1. I think her stand-up game is going to be too much for Ruiz in this one. I think even if this fight does go to the ground, I think Cheyenne Buys will have a pretty good chance to win the fight down there as well. Her wrestling is pretty solid as well. Now, when she gets to the ground, we haven't seen much of her down there as well, but she's coming out of Forest MMA, a very good gym over there with Safe Sayud. And yeah, I think her stand-up game is going to be too much for Ruiz in this one. I don't think she'll get a finish, but I definitely think she'll win this one by unanimous decision. And while you're at it with the win here for Cheyenne Buys, rebook that Kay Hansen fight. That's a very good fight between Buys and Hansen. I really want to see that one, and hopefully we get it in the very near future. So now we've got a fight here between Song Ki-nan and Max Griffin. We will start first with Song Ki-nan. So his last win was a win over Callan Potter over on Felder and Hooker in Auckland, New Zealand. Got the job done there by KO, and before that beat Derek Krantz by unanimous decision over in China on the Jessica Andrade Zhang Wei Li card. Before that, he lost to Alex Morono by unanimous decision, and then before that beat Hector Aldana and beat Bobby Nash. So currently 4-1 in the UFC. It's been a really good run so far for Song Ki-nan, and they're probably going to bring it up in the broadcast. He has fought Brad Riddell in the past, who is in the co-main event of the evening tonight, but also he's fought Israel Adesanya, and they're probably going to bring that one up. He fought Izzy back in China in 2015. That fight is on YouTube. Go watch that one. Izzy does get the job done by TKO in that fight, but yeah, it was an alright fight for Song Ki-nan. Of course, it was a long time ago in both these guys' career, but he did fight Israel Adesanya, the current 185-pound champion. Of course, this fight is now at 170, so Song Ki-nan is not obviously in his weight class anymore, but still, he has fought Izzy in the past. And Ki-nan, of course, 4-1 in the UFC. The Callan Potter win was a very good win because it was only 2 minutes. Got the job done really quick in that one. We didn't see him for the rest of 2020. Finally back it's been over a year since we have seen Ki-nan in the octagon. A very good stand-up game for Song Ki-nan, but also the ground game is good as well. A lot of good submissions. He hasn't really showcased it yet in the UFC. His last submission win was in 2016, but he is very capable of doing so, even though you will see a lot of the stand-up game now for Song Ki-nan because the stand-up game has gotten a lot better in just over time. The stand-up game for Song Ki-nan has gotten a lot better. Current record of 16-5. Let's talk about his opponent here in the veteran, in Max Griffin. Max Griffin has fought some of the best in the UFC. I mean, you got guys such as Colby Covington, you got Alex Oliveira, you got Thiago Alves, you got Mike Perry, you got Ezio Zaleski dos Santos, and I know it's a big drop-off from Colby Covington, but still a lot of good fighters, and he does own a win over Mike Perry over in Orlando, Florida on Emmett Stevens. He got the job done by unanimous decision against Mike Perry, but his first fight in the UFC was against the future champion in Colby Covington, UFC 202. I believe it opened the card. Diaz McGregor 2. Just kind of got dominated in that one. I mean, Colby just... yeah, it's pure pressure in that fight. It's like the Colby we see right now. Constant takedowns, constant pressure for Colby Covington. Really hurt Max Griffin on the feet in that fight too, and just eventually just laid it on him in the second, or late in the third round. Just put on the pressure, got him to the ground pounded him, and got the job done. Did Colby Covington. But Max Griffin comes back. It's a win over Eric Montano, then loses to Lizio Zaleski dos Santos, very good fighter. Beats Mike Perry, loses to Kurz Melender, loses to Thiago Santos, beats Zelim Amadiev, then loses to Alex Morono, loses to Alex Oliveira, and then beats Brahimov in his last fight. That's the fight where like Brahimov's like ear almost came off. Disgusting fight. Go watch it if you want. But that was on Santos Teixeira in Vegas in November. Yeah, I mean, Griffin wins that fight. I believe it was an elbow that did it. It was late in the third round. I'm not exactly sure what did it there, but yeah, eventually puts the fight away in that one. Max Griffin, good stand-up game. The ground game really hasn't been showcased so far in the UFC. Really just doesn't go down there. I mean, yeah, just really, you don't see much of the ground game from Max Griffin or him initiating the ground game. It's going to be this most likely will be a striking fight. I anticipate a Song Ki-nan, Max Griffin, pretty much a kickboxing fight. It's a tough one to call because both these guys are good on the feet. Both of them have gotten finished wins on the feet, but they've both also been finished on the feet as well. Even though Max Griffin's only fight where he's been finished due to strikes was Colby Covington. I know that fight ended on the ground, but still Colby really punched him on the feet as well. So Song Ki-nan, Max Griffin, very good fight, very good striking fight. It's basically, who do you think is going to land the more efficient strikes in this one? I'm gonna go with Song Ki-nan to pick up the win in this one. I really liked what we saw out of him in his last fight against Callan Potter. It was a very good win by KO. And again, it has been over years since we have seen him in the octagon, but Max Griffin hasn't looked great, if we're being honest. I mean, I know he won his last fight, but yeah, I mean, you got losses to Alex Morono and Alex Oliveira are not bad at all, but I really like what we've seen out of Song Ki-nan in the past. 4-1 coming into this fight. Again, one loss being to Alex Morono, who Max Griffin did lose to as well. The back-to-back wins over Derek Krantz and Callan Potter are important in this one. I mean, the Krantz win was pretty big. He did beat Derek Krantz across the board 2-1 in that fight. Pretty dominant 2-1, if you get what I mean in that one. I mean, yeah, I think Song Ki-nan's going to win this one to improve to a record of 17-5 and improve to 5-1 in the UFC. Now we have a fight here at bantamweight between Gustavo Lopez and Adrian Yanez. We're going to start first here with Gustavo Lopez. So Gustavo Lopez coming off that win over Anthony Birchak by rear naked choke. We talked about Birchak early on in the card. He's the first fight on this card. It was a good one for Gustavo Lopez. Finishes the fight pretty early. Again, I thought he was going to lose that fight, but he comes in there, finishes the win by rear naked choke early in the fight. Now, the Merab-Dvalishvili fight was not great because Merab-Dvalishvili, okay, it's your first fight in the UFC. You're fighting Merab-Dvalishvili, who's a guy, I would say a top 10 fighter. He's training over there at Serra-Longo in New York. And yeah, I mean, just pure pressure by Merab-Dvalishvili, just back takedowns in that fight. And Gustavo Lopez really just did not stand a chance in that one. Dvalishvili won that one 30-26, 30-26. And yeah, give him a 30-25 in there as well. So Lopez comes back, wins that fight against Birchak, gets him to the ground early, locks in the body triangle, and finishes him with the rear naked choke. Career record for Gustavo Lopez, 12-5. He did fight Andre Ewell back in 2018. The broadcast might bring that one up as well. Did lose to Ewell by KO in the first round of their fight in Ontario, California. And yeah, for Gustavo Lopez, he got an overall record here of 12-5. He is the former Combate Americas Bantamweight Championship champion. He did win that championship in 2018, or no, he did lose. He got his first opportunity in 2018, lost there, and then won the championship eventually in 2019. Came into the UFC as the Combate Americas champion, and then of course lost to Merab, and then most recently, of course, got the win over Anthony Birchak. Gustavo Lopez, great ground game. I think he's got to get this one to the ground if he's going to win this one, because Adrian Yanez's striking is very good. So for Gustavo Lopez, yes, he is a good striker, but you got to come into this fight with the mindset, I got to get this guy to the ground. I have to get this guy to the ground because I don't think he can really hang with Adrian Yanez on the feet. That's how good that's how highly I do think of Adrian Yanez's striking. So that's got to be the game plan for Gustavo Lopez in this one. Again, the win over Anthony Birchak was by submission, so there's that. Let's talk about his opponent and Adrian Yanez. And Yanez has been nothing but spectacular in his UFC run so far. We're gonna start the Brady Hwang fight on the Contender Series. This is in August. Gets the job done in about 30 seconds over a good fighter in Brady Hwang. Brady Hwang is a very skilled fighter. Fighting at Dragon House MMA over there in San Francisco. A very good fighter in Brady Hwang, and Adrian Yanez just completely runs through him. Knocks him out in 30 seconds. Then takes a really quick turnaround. 2 months later, fights Victor Rodriguez, and he finishes him with a head kick in the first round, 2 minutes into their fight. I know what you're saying. All right, Victor Rodriguez, not the top level of competition. He's gonna fight Denise Bondar, I do believe, next. But Yanez finishes him pretty damn early in their fight. And yes, Adrian Yanez was a minus 500 favorite in that fight. Holy crap. The Brady Hwang fight, he was a minus 400 favorite as well. Not that big of a favorite against Gustavo Lopez, however. He's only about a minus 200, give or take on that line right there. But Yanez's striking is absolutely incredible. I mean, you got four of his last 5 wins are by KO, and I think I'm gonna make my call right now. This is gonna be one of the if you don't know now you know fights. It's gonna be this fight and Grant Dawson, Leonardo Santos. Those are gonna be Dana White's if you don't know now you know fights. Potentially, we'll see. But yeah, Yanez is very good on the feet, man. And yes, he does have a fight against Miles Johns. They fought in 2018, November of that year. Lost a very close fight in the main event of an LFA card. Did lose that one by split decision. And he's coming into this fight against Gustavo Lopez with a record of 12-3. And I know how I talked about Gustavo Lopez. Well, okay, if he just gets this fight to the ground, that's got to be his mindset. Get this one to the ground, and you're going to have a good chance to win this fight. Yes, that is the case, but Adrian Yanez's ground game is not horrible as well. Yes, we don't see it as often because how good of a striking game he does have, but don't be surprised if Adrian Yanez feels very comfortable on the ground against Gustavo Lopez in this one. That being said, though, Adrian Yanez's easiest path to victory here is by keeping this one on the feet. We've seen it, the amount of power this man does possess over there at 135 pounds. He's a very powerful bantamweight, and I think he's going to be able to probably finish Gustavo Lopez in this fight. Now, it's not as big of a matchup and not mismatch as the Victor Rodriguez fight. Nothing against Victor Rodriguez, but I thought Adrian Yanez and Victor Rodriguez was a little bit of a mismatch. Let's be honest with ourselves. Brady Hwang, I mean, who knows? 2 guys coming off the contender series fights. Who knows what's going to happen? But Yanez and Gustavo Lopez, it will be a close fight just because I think Gustavo Lopez's ground game can give Adrian Yanez just a little bit of trouble in this one. But overall, I think Yanez is going to avoid that trouble, keep this one standing. He'll probably be able to eventually land one here on Gustavo Lopez. Do I think he'll be able to finish in the first round? Yeah, I think he probably will be. I think I'm going to go with the Yanez first round finish in this one. First round TKO finish. Going to ride that wave of momentum coming off the wins against Hwang and Rodriguez. Give it to him in the first round. Now we've got a fight here at heavyweight between Don'Tale Mayes and Tai Tuivasa. I'm going to get this out the way real quick. this fight can go one of two ways. We get a really spectacular knockout finish in the first round, or this is a boring 3-round fight. I honestly think that's going to be the case in this one. Like, you just don't know. It could really go either way. Let's start first with Don'Tale Mayes. So his last fight was a win over Roque Martinez. Gets the job done by unanimous decision over there on Felder and Dos Anjos in November. And then before that, loses to Rodrigo Nascimento over in Jacksonville. And then before that, loses to Ciryl Gane. But Bon Game, top 5 fighter at heavyweight, loses that one by heel hook. That will be on Ciryl Gane's highlight reels for a long time. Then Don'Tale Mayes got to start in the UFC by winning the Contender Series, not once but twice. He got the contract, of course, the second time. He actually fought in the Contender Series 3 times, though. First one was a loss to Alan Crowder, lost one by TKO. Also, he owns a win over Muhammad Usman, won that fight by rear naked choke over in Indiana in 2018. And yeah, that's something that Don'Tale Mayes does have. He does have a solid ground game, and I know he has been submitted twice in the past. 2 of his 3 losses in the UFC, or two of his losses in the UFC, were by submission, but still, he does have a solid ground game. And the guys he did fight, I mean, come on, Rodrigo Nascimento, very good ground game, and Ciryl Gane, very good ground game. Now, against a guy like Tai Tuivasa, that ground game can be a big factor, because Don'Tale Mayes, Tai Tuivasa, let's be honest, his ground game is not very good, and Don'Tale Mayes will probably have to go to the ground in this one, because if you trade with Tai Tuivasa, Stefan Struve can probably just, I mean, he'll tell you, you're gonna probably get knocked out. Tai Tuivasa is not a very good technical striker, but he throws a lot of big haymakers, and eventually, if he lands a strike, he will probably end the night for you. And Don'Tale Mayes has got to be careful of that. I think if he can get this one on the ground, he'll have a very good chance to win this one. And I know the last fight he did win was primarily a stand-up fight. He did really just piece together Martinez on the feet, basically won that fight. But, like, Tai Tuivasa is a different monster on the feet. And I know, again, if you can wear down Tai Tuivasa throughout the fight, you can probably beat him by 30-27 decision. That's why I brought up, right? If Don'Tale Mayes can take control of the first round, maybe land a takedown on Tai Tuivasa, tire him out in the first round, he can go to his striking in the second and third rounds, and he can basically just keep the fight standing and win a good decision like that. That's how I see this one going potentially for Don'Tale Mayes. His wrestling is very underrated. His grappling is very underrated. But that being said, though, Tai Tuivasa can land a bomb and probably finish the night in the first round and maybe in 30 seconds. Again, like the Stefan Struve fight. So another very tough fight to call because it just depends what Don'Tale Mayes we get in this one. We kind of know what Tai Tuivasa we're going to get. Not a very great cardio system, but got a lot of power, can end a fight with one punch at any time. He's never going to go down. He's always going to keep striking, and he might drink a beer out of a shoe where he has other people spit in it. I guess Nelk will probably be at the fight. Probably they're going to do that. If Tai Tuivasa does win, they're probably going to put a bunch of money on him. Who knows what happens, because apparently Nelk are the only people who are allowed in the Apex, but that's all right. Don'Tale Mayes, Tai Tuivasa, good fight. Let's talk about Tai Tuivasa in full now. And I didn't think Tai Tuivasa was going to be Stefan Struve. I really didn't think he was, because I mean, Tuivasa coming off those 3 straight losses, given really good fighters. I mean, you got JDS, Blagoy Ivanov, Sergey Spivak. Those are tough fights, right? And then he comes back and then he fights Struve and he knocks out Struve at the end of the first round, a second left in the first round, puts him with the big overhand right, finishes the night, jumps on the cage, hits Struve again, knocks down Struve again. Yeah, it was kind of unfortunate for Stefan Struve. He is now retired from MMA for the second or third time. Yeah, I mean, he's retired multiple times at this point. Tai Tuivasa's biggest win to date, though, is the Andrei Arlovski win. I mean, you got to go back. Andrei Arlovski's still fighting. He's still fighting the elite of the weight class. And I know Tom Aspinall did lose too, but Arlovski's been fighting very good fighters for the longest time. And Tai Tuivasa did win a unanimous decision against him. And that's the only decision win of Tuivasa's career. So I'm not saying that Tuivasa, if the fight goes out of the first round, he's going to lose no matter what. No, Tuivasa can go the full 3 rounds. The Blagoy Ivanov fight was close, kind of. UFC 238. He did lose that fight 30-27 across the board, except for one judge. He gave him the 29-28 loss. But he did stay in that fight, and he was somewhat competitive in it. The JDS fight really was not competitive at all, even though he did land some punches in the first round. Again, for JDS, it's not really, because, okay, at the point, Junior Dos Santos was still trying to chase the title, and you didn't really want that close of a fight against Tai Tuivasa at that point of your career if you are JDS. And Tuivasa gave him a tough fight, but in the end, Junior Dos Santos did win that one. The Sergey Spivak fight, well, Tai Tuivasa got out-wrestled. That's what Don'Tale Mayes has to do, and I can't stress it enough. I don't think Don'Tale Mayes is going to win a striking fight with Tai Tuivasa, because I think eventually Tai Tuivasa will land a bomb and probably put down Don'Tale Mayes. But if Don'Tale Mayes, constant pressure, keeps fishing for the takedowns and eventually gets one, puts Tai Tuivasa on the ground, keeps him on the ground, could win a decision or maybe even submit him down there. You just don't know what game plan you're going to get out of Don'Tale Mayes in that fight, and that's why I'm picking Tai Tuivasa, because I just don't know. fight could go multiple ways. And it's not like Tai Tuivasa, well, okay, he's not a very good grappler, but Tai Tuivasa can get up, right? He can get up from off his back. And I think there's more ways Tai Tuivasa can win this fight. Well, okay, I'm going to take that back. I see more scenarios where Tai Tuivasa can win this fight than Don'Tale Mayes. I think the striking is probably going to be enough for Tai Tuivasa to win this one. I think Mayes at points in this fight will probably stand there and he probably will trade with Tai Tuivasa. And I think eventually he will get the better of him, will Tai Tuivasa. I think Tai Tuivasa is eventually going to land that bomb. And I'm going to go with the Tai Tuivasa first round knockout. Yeah, going back-to-back wins in the first round for Bam Bam Tai Tuivasa. Bring out the damn shoeies. Now for the co-main event of the evening, we have got Brad Riddell taking on Gregor Gillespie, and Gillespie is finally back after being sent to the Shadow Realm by Kevin Lee, but don't get me wrong, Gregor Gillespie, a very good fighter. Let's start first with Brad Riddell. Coming into this fight off a 3-fight winning streak in the UFC, starts off with the win over Jamie Malarkey by unanimous decision over on UFC 243, then beats Magomed Mustafayev by split decision, and then beats Alex De Silva at UFC 253 by unanimous decision. And yeah, Brad Riddell looked good in his last fight. He's a very good striker, and that's simple. I mean, Brad Riddell is going to have to keep this fight standing with Gregor Gillespie because Gillespie's ground game is good, and don't get me wrong, his striking is good as well, but I think Gillespie, the obvious advantage in this one for either fighter is the Gillespie ground game. It definitely is. Now, Riddell, though, his striking is good. Don't get me wrong, Riddell's striking is very good, and he can definitely hang with Gregor Gillespie, and he can put down Gregor Gillespie. And I know Riddell has not gotten the finish so far in the UFC, hasn't gotten a finish since May of 2019, but something with Brad Riddell, he stays very active. He's always in the gym, he's always training, always getting ready for a fight, and he's always active. 2 fights in 2020, yes, but I mean, 2019, the man had 4 fights, all right? April, May, July, October. He stays very damn active outside of the UFC, and came in the UFC again. He is 3-0, 3 pretty good wins. Now, Magomed Mustafayev, that win, split decision over in Auckland, New Zealand on Felder Hooker. If you want to look at the final cards for that fight, you have got a 29-28 for Riddell, or 2 29-28s for Riddell, and 1 29-28 for Mustafayev. Close call on that one. And the Riddell fight against Alex Silva, pretty dominant unanimous decision win at UFC 253. Your final scorecards for that fight, you had 29-28s across the board for Brad Riddell on the final fight before the pay-per-view portion of that card. Riddell coming into this fight with a record of 9-1. And again, kickboxing background for Brad Riddell, had a lot of kickboxing fights back in his day. And yeah, it's that simple. He's got to have to keep this fight standing with Gregor Gillespie, and I think Gillespie most likely will try, for the most part, try to strike with Brad Riddell. We'll see how it goes though, because again, Gillespie could just go in there, try to clinch with him, eventually try to work for a takedown and get Brad Riddell down. And we really just haven't seen much of the Brad Riddell ground game. We just haven't seen much of it. So let's talk about his opponent though, Gregor Gillespie. And yeah, Gillespie is probably most known, I mean definitely most known for that Kevin Lee fight. It was, I believe it was the opener in UFC 244 on the pay-per-view card. Yeah, it was the opener, and that insane head kick. I mean, one of the better knockouts you were ever going to see by Kevin Lee. I think that was the exact line by John Anik. Was Kevin Lee, one of the greatest knockouts you ever see. Again, John Anik, one of the best in the game. But yeah, tremendous knockout for Kevin Lee in that one. Gillespie was actually the favorite going into that fight, because don't forget, Gregor Gillespie going into that fight was 13-0, undefeated, coming off of wins such as Vince Pichel, Yancy Medeiros. Those are 2 really good wins. I mean, he's coming off a knockout win over Yancy Medeiros. It's kind of weird though. So that fight against Kevin Lee was in November 2019. Gregor Gillespie is still ranked. I believe he was ranked number 11 going into that fight. He's still ranked, and he's number 15 going into this fight with Brad Riddell. He has not fought again since November of 2019, and he's still in the rankings. He's a good striker. Okay, Gregor Gillespie is a good striker, but the ground game is also very good as well. I mean, the submission over Vince Pichel got him with the arm triangle choke in June of 2018. Again, Vince Pichel is a striker, and Gillespie just thought, all right, if I take this guy to the ground, I'm probably going to finish him. And the other submission win in the UFC was a win over Jason Gonzalez, and Jason Gonzalez is a very good grappler in his own right, most recently released by the UFC in 2019, but Jason Gonzalez is a good grappler, and Gregor Gillespie got him to the ground and finished him with an arm triangle. So, and those are guys, and for example, I'm going to take the Vince Pichel fight as an example here. Vince Pichel, good striker, right? Ground game is all right. Brad Riddell is the same exact thing. Very good striker. The ground game, there's questions around it, and I think that's where Gregor Gillespie is gonna be able to really exploit the most. He's got the Division I wrestling in his background as well. Very good wrestler for Gregor Gillespie. He's, according to Wikipedia, is a blue belt in jiu-jitsu and BJJ, but his ground game is good when he gets it down there. Again, the wrestling is tremendous for him, and I think that's what he's gonna do to Brad Riddell, man. I don't think, again, if we get a striking fight, you might as well flip a coin. That's how close this fight is on the feet. But on the ground, I'm gonna give the advantage to Gregor Gillespie. I think that's where he's gonna win this fight. And yeah, I think Gillespie's gonna get a bounce back win here. I'm gonna go I'll go with the submission win for Gregor Gillespie in this one. I think he's going to be able to get the job done. Now, don't get me wrong, Brian Riddell could win this fight 100%. One of the tougher fights to call on this entire card, but I'm going to go with Gillespie, using his wrestling to his advantage, trying to sink in a submission hold. I'm going to go with this Gillespie submission win. I'll say in the second round. Now, it is time for the main event of the evening. We have got Derek Brunson taking on Kevin Holland. What a fight we have in the main event here at middleweight. Kevin Holland working his way up the rankings, and Derek Brunson has been in the top 10 weight class for a very long time and has fought some of the greatest, honestly, of all time. We're going to start here with Kevin Holland. So coming off that win against Jacare Souza over in UFC 256, I should not have picked against Kevin Holland in that fight. Tremendous knockout. He knocks him out from his knees. He's on his back, winds up, boom! Big shot and puts down Jacare. Well, Jacare is already on his knees, but still, put him down and finish the fight that way. One of the better knockouts you are ever going to see. Holland before that picks up a win against Charlie Ontiveros. Ontiveros, not a UFC fighter. I think he just got suspended for something. I'm not sure, but Holland gets the job done by TKO. Their weird finish slams him. I believe it was a neck issue for Charlie in that one, but Holland gets the job done there. That fight should have never been scheduled in the first place, but hey, good win for Kevin Holland. Before that, he beats Darren Stewart by split decision, and before that beats Joaquin Buckley by TKO, and then before that beats Anthony Fluffy Hernandez by TKO. I want to talk about the guys he did beat, though, in that 5-fight run in 2020. By the way, all those fights were in 2020 from May 4. Anthony Hernandez, what has he done since? Well, Anthony Hernandez most recently just beat Rodolfo Vieira. That says a lot right there for Kevin Holland. Again, Anthony Hernandez's ground game is very good. You saw that in the Rodolfo Vieira fight. Holland beat him striking. And Hernandez striking is very good as well. By the way, he beat Rodolfo Vieira on the feet when that fight took place on the feet as well. Joaquin Buckley. Well, what does Joaquin Buckley do after the Kevin Holland fight? Well, spinning back kicks, or spinning jump back kicks in Pakasanganai. After that, beats Jordan Wright, knocks him out, and then loses to Alessio Di Chirico. Yikes, but okay, Joaquin Buckley, tremendous fighter, gets into a lot of very fun fights. He either is delivering a spectacular knockout or he's getting knocked out himself. There's that. Darren Stewart. Well, Kevin Holland beat Darren Stewart by split decision. What has Darren Stewart done since? Fought Eric Anders, and Eric Anders was about to win that fight, and he kneed him while he's on the ground. What are we doing, guys? Knee on the ground? You can't knee him in the face. Okay. And then he beat, Charlie Ontiveros. What has Charlie Ontiveros done since? He hasn't fought. Jacare hasn't fought. But I wanted to point out Hernandez and Buckley. Those are two very good wins, and Stewart as well. And Jacare, one of the greater fighters to ever step foot in the octagon at 185 as well. Kevin Holland's 2020, I mean, there's nothing more that can be said. He was absolutely fantastic. 5-0 that year. Before that, for Holland's run in the UFC, you really just don't even want to talk about it because that's how impressive the 2020 run was for Holland. And he's improved so much since pre-2020 Kevin Holland. I mean, Thiago Santos takes that fight on 2 weeks' notice. Big mouth, as Dana White called him. He loses that fight by unanimous decision, but that was a tough fight for Kevin Holland. It was a very close fight, honestly. I know Santos won that one, but Holland kind of gasped towards the end of that fight. But again, took that fight on 2 days' notice, or 2 weeks' notice. After that, beats John Phillips, wins by submission. Do I think we're going to get any submissions or any grappling in this fight between Holland and Brunson? I don't think so. I think we're going to see we're just going to see a stand-up fight in this one. Unless Holland gets into a lot of trouble, because that's what Kevin Holland can do. If he's in some trouble on the feet, he'll just go straight for the takedown. In that John Phillips fight, he was in trouble. And now, say what you want about John Phillips in the UFC, but Phillips did have Holland in some trouble in the stand-up department in that fight. And Holland just went for a takedown, got him to the ground, rear naked choke, finished him. After that, he beat Jared Mearshart by split decision, a very good grappler, by the way, in Jared Mearshart, and then beats Alessio Di Chirico, loses to Brendan Allen by rear naked choke. That's going to happen to you since Brendan Allen is one of the better grapplers you're going to see at 185, and then, of course, the 5 wins in 2020. That's Kevin Holland's record of 21-5. Again, the stand-up game is absolutely incredible for Holland. He's never been knocked out in his career. The only 2 losses he has had by finish were the Brendan Allen submission loss, of course, in 2019, and the other one was a submission loss to Rafael Lovato, in 2015, the former Bellator middleweight champion. Hopefully Lovato gets cleared soon to fight. Let's talk about his opponent, though, for Holland, in Derek Brunson. And Brunson was absolutely great in that fight against Edmen Shahbazyan. I thought Shahbazyan was going to break through, young up-and-coming fighter. I thought Shahbazyan was going to be able to get the job done. He did not, and Derek Brunson dominated that fight against Shahbazyan. Fight was stopped in the 3rd round, probably should have been stopped in the 2nd round, but Brunson just dominated Edmen in that fight. Just a great fight for Derek Brunson. That was like the perfect fight you wanted out of Derek Brunson, that one, and you got it. Before that, he beat Ian Heinisch by unanimous decision, beat Elias Theodorou by unanimous decision, who just won a fight, I do believe, on Saturday night. Did Elias Theodorou? Yeah, he won on a PFC over in Ontario, Canada. But Brunson wins that fight, kind of a boring fight, but whatever. He wins that one by unanimous decision. Before that, loses to Israel Adesanya. Gonna happen to you. Loses to Jacare. Gonna happen to you. Beats Lyoto Machida, knocks him out in the first round. Beats Dan Kelly. Loses to Anderson Silva. That's gonna happen to you. Loses to Robert Whittaker. That's gonna happen to you. Beats Uriah Hall. Beats Sam Alvey, Ed Herman, Lorenz Larkin. Loses to Yoel Romero. That's gonna happen to you. Beats Chris Lieben. Loses to Jacare Souza. That's gonna happen to you. And then that's about it. I mean, I know the Jacare fight was in Strikeforce, but still. I've talked about this multiple times with Derek Brunson though in the past. When he gets the big fight, he loses. And I know the Edmund Shahbazyan fight was a big win for him because it was the first time he did win second time he did win the main event, because the Machida fight was in the main event as well. But Brunson sometimes will struggle with the really good strikers in the weight class, and he avoided that in the Edmund Shahbazyan fight. But again, we're looking at guys such as Whittaker, Silva, Souza, and Adesanya, and Yoel Romero. I mean, those are great fighters. Very good stand-up fighters as well. Now, is Kevin Holland on the level of all those guys? No. I mean, especially we're talking about prime Jacare as well, right? So I don't think we're going to see Derek Brunson look for a takedown this one. I don't think we're going to see it. I think we're going to see a stand-up fight. We've seen Brunson get knocked out 5 times in the past, but again, who are the fighters he's been knocked out by? Izzy, Jacare, Whittaker, Yoel Romero, Jacare again. Come on. I mean, like, those are the best fighters to ever step foot at 185. And I know Brunson's got the wrestling background, but you don't see it often out of Derek Brunson. You really don't. So I think we're going to see a stand-up fight here with him and Kevin Holland. Brunson coming to this fight with a record of 21-7. Power advantage, probably going to give it to Derek Brunson, but Kevin Holland's got a lot of power as well. I just don't know, man. This is a really close fight. I mean, the odds, Kevin Holland a very slight favorite. That's where it should be. A lot of people are picking Kevin Holland just because of the 5 wins in 2020, and I get that. But don't sleep on Derek Brunson in this fight. A lot of people thought Edmund Shahbazyan was going to beat him, and what happened? Derek Brunson just completely went through Edmund Shahbazyan. That was not a contest. Oh, man. All right, official prediction, though. I am going to go with Big Mouth Kevin Holland. We're doing it. Yeah, I'm going. Stay in on the Kevin Holland hype train. I know I picked against him for the Jacare Souza fight, but again, I've been high on the Kevin Holland hype train for a while. I just picked Jacare because I thought maybe the ground game gets the better of Kevin Holland. This fight, I don't think it's going to be a factor. I think we're going to see a stand-up fight. I think we are. And I think Kevin Holland's striking is better than Derek Brunson's striking. That's a very bold prediction. But if I'm picking Kevin Holland, that's why I'm picking him, because I think his stand-up game is better. And that's how simple I think it is. I think Kevin Holland's going to be able to outstrike Derek Brunson throughout multiple points in this fight. And the number 10 middleweight in the world is going to move up the ranks yet again. Kevin Holland. Give him the victory. Again, Derek Brunson can win this fight, though. I mean, Brunson, again, proved me wrong in the Shahbazyan fight. Who knows what's going to happen? Brunson can, again, just land that one bomb, or just if he lands a couple big power shots in the first round against Kevin Holland, he can just drag this fight out and eventually finish him later, like in the 3rd or 4th round. Who knows, though? I'm still going with the Kevin Holland win. Do I think he'll finish him? I don't. Okay, I'll say yeah. Kevin Holland, 3rd round knockout. 3rd round TKO finish for Kevin Holland. He's got a lot of power, man. He does. Brunson's got a lot of power, too. It's going to be a good fight. Just trust me. This is going to be an amazing fight. Potentially win fight of the night. But yeah, Holland, I think with the win here, goes up to number 7 or 6. Give me Kevin Holland and Jared Cannonier. Why not? Give me that fight. Cannonier doesn't have a fight. Everyone else in the top of the weight class, Whittaker, Costa, Till, Vittori has a fight. I don't want to do Hermansson because Hermansson just fought. I mean, Vittori, yeah, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Hermansson take that quick of a turnaround. Just got beat up pretty badly by Marvin Vittori. Give me Jared Cannonier and Kevin Holland. What a fight that could be. Or for Derek Brunson, too. If he wins, give me him and Cannonier. I think the winner of this fight should fight Jared Cannonier, and that should be a banger of a fight as well. But we're going with the Trailblazer, Big Mouth, Kevin Holland to win his 6th straight in the UFC. And folks, thank y'all for watching this hour-long UFC preview and predictions here on the channel. If you have not yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. We do one of these every single week, and we'll be back next week for Stipe Miocic and Francis Ngannou. Also, Alexander Volkanovski, Brian Ortega. What a damn card that is. I'm so excited. Hopefully, we get that one in Texas, too, with the full crowd. Please make that one happen. Houston, San Antonio. I don't think they're going to do it in San Antonio, so hopefully Houston pulls out that one for everyone. And yeah, I can't wait for that card. But again, folks, thank you all for watching. If you have not yet, make sure to subscribe button down below for more Mamba forever.